Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Memento Futurum Poetcast, which, if you don't know, means remembering the future. We'll do a whole other poetcast on that a different day. But today I have Harmony Nixon with me, and I'm so excited to get into our conversation. But a little bit about her. Harmony Nixon is an earth-based spiritual healer, poet, singer-songwriter, and creative mentor. Her passion is guiding people through their inner landscapes to find healing and alignment with their true selves. She has over a decade of experience and training with energy medicine from multiple healing traditions. She studied with the Four Winds Society and carries the wisdom of the medicine wheel. Harmony pours her stories of healing and her love of the natural world into her music and writing. Her first poetry book, Unlovable, Broken Pieces of Songs and Memories, was published in December 2019. And she is currently writing her second book. Woo! She is pursuing her bachelor's in creative writing and English with a focus on nonfiction, as she is passionate about supporting others in sharing their transformational stories. She works with artists and creatives, helping them find their authentic voice so they can share it with the world. Harmony is also the host of the Seeking Wild Beauty podcast, where she talks about the healing journey, intuitive living, and creative empowerment. So I just want to welcome you, Harmony, to the podcast and all that you're going to share today.
Hey, I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a really special moment. Just like really feeling in and dropping in with you because, um, well, I've known you for, oh my gosh, almost a decade, right?
Oh my gosh, has it been that long?
Yeah, I mean, 2013, 2014-ish.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, when I was like dropping with your bio, I was like, oh wow, yeah. That 10-year mark. And we're recording this today on Samhain, which is a really sacred day, um, between worlds. And so the first thing that I just kind of want to offer to the conversation today is our feeling and um yeah, any expression around maybe what you're feeling today on Samhain and how the energy is moving for you, or yeah, what you're sensing between worlds.
Yeah, I'm actually really feeling I'm feeling a settling energy. It's been really intense since eclipse season. And right now I feel like this really beautiful settling energy. And I can tell that I'm kind of crossing this threshold into something else. I've been making a huge pivot in my life in many different ways. And the way I show up in the world. And I feel like right now is this kind of like marker of it's been really intense to kind of let go of all the things that's not me. And it kind of feels like a new beginning for me today.
Mm.
And it feels really grounded. I feel very rooted. And yeah, I'm going to spend some time today connecting with my ancestors and honoring them and the wisdom that's in my own lineage to kind of help guide that experience. But that's what I'm feeling today. What about you?
Oh, I love that. Yeah, thank you. Also, like, I'm just was listening and I'm like, yeah, I'm feeling a deep mirroring in my process. Rough few weeks. Eclipse season was very intense. Um Pivoting in my life. This podcast is, fresh, it's new. And so I think that's part of the new direction I'm flowing. And yeah, I mean, something I did 9 months ago on my solar return, January 31st, was conceive and seed my new self that would gestate. And I was like, what's 9 months from now? And that's today. So I think I'm having a rebirth. Um, as I was preparing for the podcast and thinking about, what happened here today, um, like I didn't fully click, but like in this moment, I'm like, uh-huh. So like harmony in my life, like I'm creating harmony in my life. Thank you, Harmony, for being here. Um, but yeah, I think that the things that you said around ancestors and like connecting in with that layer is really special and important. I think that's also where I'm at right now. And yeah, this season, I mean, this day in the wheel of the year marks like the first day or the holiday or the beginning of winter. And so, like, in the ancient calendars, there only really was the summer and the winter. And so, like, we're in this, going into the underworld part of the year. And yeah, I don't know. I just wanted to share that and kind of maybe bring that filter lens to this conversation today. Um, but yeah, I'm just feeling like the underworld energy and beginning of November and moving into that. So, oh, it's my
It
favorite
feels so
season.
good.
Yeah. I feel like, I don't know about you, but I feel like it requires a different kind of um, awareness or like listening ears to work with this part of the, season, like this part of the, I was gonna say world. Yeah, this part of the world, this part of the, the rhythm of nature. Which kind of leads me into a different question, which is, um, yeah, about your creative process, because that's really why we're here. So I know that you create poetry and I know that you create music, but I guess, do you feel like your creative process is different depending on the seasons or depending on um, maybe like moon energy or cosmic energy? Just like curious to ask you about that.
Most definitely. I feel that I try the best I can. My spiritual practice is staying in rhythm with nature and my own nature. So by exploring my inner landscapes, I follow my own rhythm and I see how that connects to, nature around me. So I'm always following the moon phases and, the turn of the seasons. And when we're moving into the winter season, that is a time that I have to remember that I do have a lot of creative energy in this season. And for some, I could even say that it's almost like a weird spring for me. But I have to remember that even though I do produce a lot in winter, which is not the same for everyone, everyone is different. But the thing that really reflects the winter archetype is that I really have to surrender instead of putting so much action. So as I'm creating, I'm spending more time surrendering and really finding that silent spot within me. Like I'm having to remind myself to do that a lot in this kind of season. Because all of my obviously creativity comes from your intuition. It rides the same line. But in this season, I really find that I feel better when I really sink in. Um, and that's different for me in spring. That one is more of a playful being outside, seeing what I can create with my hands. This one is more of like an internal creation, and then it starts to slowly come out, if that makes sense.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know if that really explains the way, but that's what it feels like to me. So yeah, my creative process is really just sinking in, especially this time of year. And getting out of the way, because a lot of times, I can get up in my head like all of us. We can get up in our heads and try to fix everything. But it's a really good time to like let that kind of go and let's just see what's going on under the surface in a bigger way than the rest of the year.
Mm, wow. Yeah, I feel like, sinking, the word sinking in, silence, like surrender, that's all very in alignment, with how I sense this season, fall and winter. And I think that sometimes it's hard to bring words to. So it's kind of fun to be doing a podcast during this season and like talking about creative process. So like, fleshing it out with language, I think can require a little bit more care and space and like, what am I feeling exactly? I think sometimes this is the time of year when um, we can get these really different energy signatures, perhaps like moving through us. And when I say get, I guess I mean they might arise and it's like, what am I feeling exactly? Like what is this? Because they're coming from this void space. At least for those of us in Northern Hemisphere, we're in the Northern
Yeah.
Hemisphere, so we're experienced this way, and that's what we're talking and speaking from. But um when you say sinking in, I'm curious to know what that could look like for you on a more like practical level or maybe more day to day. Like when you're sinking into your creative process, like how do you do that?
Well, okay, it's going to be sound like the most basic thing you've ever heard, but honestly, it's really taking time to sit in silence, not with music, as much as I love music and having background music and, all of the beautiful things, sitting in actual silence. And I think for everyone, it can get uncomfortable when you sit in silence. Like you always find something you want to do, or you're like, oh, the monkey mind gets in the way. Like I experience that all the time. Um, but really sitting in silence and just allowing my mind just to like look out my window or to go sit out in nature and just being with that helps me drop in. And then what I experience from dropping in is, I mean, I honestly feel that there is a prayer that's already praying through all of us. And
Mm,
when you can take time to sit and be still, what happens is, for me at least, I sink into this place where my body almost starts to hum a little bit. It feels like a deep resonance. And from that place, I just listen and see what comes up. And then later, I take what I've found and create with that. So for me, it's literally just sitting in silence, even though it can be uncomfortable. I'm the kind of person who loves more guided meditations or drumming meditations or very visual journeys.
mhm.
But this is the time of year to where I'm like, let's just sit in the silence and just feel without needing any of my senses to be active except for my intuition.
Wow. Wow. I think that that's in its own way an act of rebellion and kind of counterculture, because we're always moving so fast. And for a lot of people, celebrating holidays this season, it can get really busy
Oh,
and
yeah.
buzzy, you know? And it's really interesting that we do that. I think as a Western society, it's like speed up during the seasons that are telling us to slow down.
Hmm.
And then if you're we're all creatives, but like if you're a person who's in a maybe a particular process or has some type of medium that you work with, um, and you're engaged with that, I feel like this time of year can bring up a lot of friction. Like, wait, I have this engagement to go to or that engagement or whatever, and all I want to do is sit in silence and just like listen. Um, So I think, and then if you have a family, and you're, holding that role, like it's just like compounded. So, yeah, and I know that you're a mother. So,
Yes.
I mean, how is it juggling? How has it been juggling creative process and family life?
Oh, it is such it is such a it's an art, shall I say. Um, I have raised both of my daughters. My daughters are 18 and 10.
Mm,
And so ever since they were young, I have always um well, let me start by saying this. I used to be a toxic people pleaser, okay? And I'm going to come from this thing because I wanted to raise my daughters in a way to where I'm not just going to fully give myself to them 24/7. I think it's really important that my daughters know boundaries. And so like if of course, I'm there for everything that they need and all of the other stuff and I'm there emotionally and things, but I also set time aside for myself, and unless it's an emergency, don't interrupt if I'm in a creative process. And that has always just worked really well because it teaches them how to set boundaries for themselves, so when they get older they're not giving all of themselves to people around them. You
mm,
can love somebody fully and full-heartedly, but you still have to make time for yourself. And so with the juggling part of that, like, I mean, there's still the times to where I don't get as much time for myself as I need, but just setting those boundaries and saying, hey girls, I'm going to take, an hour in here. Please don't interrupt me unless you're bleeding. Okay. Something as simple as that, but it's really important. And no matter what we're doing in our lives, like we are always going to find something to do. There's something more logical to do of like, oh, but the dishes need done. Oh, but the laundry needs done. Um, and on Instagram, Inspired to Write, Amy, she always says, create now and muggle shit later.
mm, mhm.
So I take the time to create when I'm in the flow because it's important and chores will always be there. So I kind of just try to find that balance between letting my girls know, letting my family know that I need this space. I carve out space for myself when I can, which I try to do every day, even if it's just a small amount of time. But it's just really important to do that. And then also, during the creative process, if I'm feeling really creative, but I know my youngest daughter really needs some extra, attention and stuff, I'll just create with her. Sometimes we'll just create a fire and, paint together, or we'll sing together or something like that. So I like to involve them in the creative process as
Oh, I
well.
love that. Yeah, that's like um mom wisdom 5,000. Yes. I'm a toddler mom at this point, so in my journey, so yeah, I'm like listening and just keeping those nuggets for later. Um yeah, I'm just like kind of feeling the intersection of your creative process and mom and this season. And I know you said you're pivoting, so I'm curious to hear about maybe what that process is going, how that process is going, maybe what you're pivoting away from and toward, maybe what was old self, what is new self that you can perceive at this point.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. This one has been an intense one. I kind of feel like when I ground into something that I'm passionate about, it's really hard for me to let go, even if I'm being called to let go. And so it's been a really intense few years on the way I express myself in the public world.
Hmm.
So I'm just gonna do like a quick little journey, like a little timeline to kind of get you where I'm at now.
Okay, yeah.
Um, I started my healing journey in 2008, and that's when I started an earth-based healing path. And I spent years working on healing myself, and that shocked me. It shocked me of how much I could find healing. And I knew I wanted to help other people heal. So I went to become a nurse. That's all I knew how to do at that time. I didn't have any reference points of how else to help people heal. And so I became a nurse, and I was a nurse for a few years, but my heart was telling me to, that I was meant to help people in a different way. And that's when a lot of my gifts came online more strongly to where I actually knew how to work with them. And so I began studying energy medicine, and I spent years working with energy medicine. I've trained as a shamanic practitioner, and I've worked with people one on one and in groups for over a decade now, since 2013. And I've had so much fun helping people. Fun, and it's fun for me because I love that light in people when they heal something about themselves that they thought that they were always stuck in. I love helping people work through like insecurities and self-love issues. I just love helping people find themselves underneath all of the beliefs that society has told them to be. I like to help people peel off the layers. And so this is what I've been doing for the last 10 years devotedly. And I really wanted to, take the gifts that I have and as a writer and refine those gifts because I want to start helping people more through writing, and I want to help creatives and artists get out there. And this is why. It's because I can help one person or I can help a group of people. But if I'm helping artists and creatives find their voice, that is going to ripple out so much brighter. So I can share my voice out into the world and share my light, but I want to help others learn to find theirs and shine it because I know it's going to light up this world way faster if I rather than me just trying to do it on my own.
Wow, yeah.
Um, and so that's why I decided to go back to school to get my bachelor's in creative writing and nonfiction, because I love sharing my story. That's what I'm compelled to do, is to share my story of healing, transformation, to show people what the healing journey really looks like on a deep level, what shadow work looks like, facing your inner demons eye to eye and like loving them into light. That shit is powerful. And I want to bring that over into the writing and to help creatives kind of face their own inner demons and get past the blocks that they have for themselves so they can really dive in to that authentic place, pull that out and pour it onto the page or into music. Um, so I'm really pivoting not towards just helping people heal their trauma. I'm pivoting towards helping creatives and artists find their voice because I know that that is the thing that's going to really bring more healing to the world. So that's what I'm
Wow.
focused on.
Beautiful. I mean, I think it's going to have a really huge impact, and I know it already has like a really huge impact. I had the amazing gift to visit Harmony in her home this summer when she invited me to be a part of one of her songs
Yes.
called Forgotten Places. I have to mention this process because it's so special. Um, but I wanted to ask, so I know that you have a few other songs coming out, which I'm like, girl, you're on fire. What is that like? Can I ask what they're like?
Yeah, for
Just
sure.
curious about what you're creating.
Yes. First of all, I loved having you here and I loved working with you on Forgotten Places. The way that you can just freaking pick up the viola and just like rock that shit out, even though you're like, oh, I'm a little rusty. No, bitch. No, you're not. It was so amazing. It was actually magical. It felt like magic of how all of that came together. And I'm so thankful that you got to be there and part of that with me. I'm working on two new songs, and they're going a lot on, let's see, it's a lot of my own process of healing with my childhood and healing my past. And so, actually, I think two of the other songs that I have just released, along with Forgotten Places, was about my childhood as well. It was about rooting in and reconnecting to who I was before tragedy and before all the trauma kind of started in my teen years. And so I've been finding myself going on this really deep healing journey of reconnecting to people that I haven't connected with in a really long time and what that means to me. I feel like a deep foundational healing is happening. And so a lot of my music is coming from that right now. And it's really powerful. And I think it's important for me to stay open and vulnerable through everything I create because I actually think that that is my biggest gift is for some reason I it hurts to be open so much, but I feel like my gift is the way that I can be open and be vulnerable and to share that with others so they know it's safe to do the same. And I think it's really important to finding healing. So, my other two songs that are coming out is about that healing journey and kind of what that feels like as I'm mending. So,
So, wow, my voice. Wow. Squeaky. I was inclined to ask, would you say that this is inner child work or inner child healing, or is it in that vein?
I would say so. I've done so much inner child work about my childhood. It's been years and years and years of inner child work. This one actually feels different. In a way, I could say it's inner child work for sure, but it almost feels like a coming home to myself.
Mm,
Um, I mean, I've looked my inner child in the eyes more times than I can count to make sure that she felt safe going through all the things that she went through.
mhm.
But now it feels like I'm reclaiming myself. So it doesn't necessarily feel like inner child work, even though it's still in the same vein. It just seems like more of a reclaiming.
Yeah, I think it's cool that you can key into that distinction and get into that nugget and your process that you described earlier and like how you're really dropping in to kind of refine and like go in. It's really wow. Yeah, I feel like the there's two questions I want to ask here in the last bit, which is the first one is what would you say is your highest dream for yourself or for your life?
Ooh, my highest dream.
Like maybe what just comes to you like right away.
What comes to me is like, of course, I want my family and everyone to be healthy and have a long, happy life. But beyond that, I
Mhm.
really want to create a life of work that means something. I want what I create to live on after me and to be a beacon of hope for people. I want people to read my words and to be haunted and captivated by them in a really beautiful way. Ones that make them, open up and crack open. Ones that move people on a deep level to expressing themselves. I want to be a light that just exists in the world for many years after I'm gone. And I want, my grandchildren to be able to see like songs that I've written or poetry and it means something to them and they feel not alone. I share a lot of the hard parts of life. And even though it's really hard for me to show up and share those sometimes, I feel like it's necessary because the artists and the creatives are the ones who bring that medicine for when you feel broken and nothing makes sense. It helps you make sense of life. And I want to be that kind of light in the world.
Wow. Fleshed out. You rocked that. Wow. My heart is just like, like, yes. And my other kind of part two is like, what would you say is your highest dream for the world?
Oh, I think my highest dream for the world would be for people to realize that it's okay to be freaking human. So many of us, feel like we have to block off our humanness, our emotions, our authenticity. We have to be a certain way. It's not like that. I really hope that humanity realizes how intensely beautiful being human is and learns to embrace it for all it is.
Wow. I mean, that is the beauty way. Like that is the poet, that's the archetype of the poet. I think is to bring uh beauty to the world and not just, I mean, beauty in all forms, and a deeply human way. And so I feel like, wow, it was like you really spoke from that space. Like um my mouth dropped when you said what you said. I was like, okay, wow. Uh-huh. Um, and I asked those questions just because like this is remembering the future. Memento futurum is remembering the future. And you said reclaiming yourself. I think that's what it's about, as a creative. And it's like just coming deeper and deeper and deeper into one's truth. And in some way, shape, or form, perhaps bringing that to the world. Um, Kind of as a wrap up, I'm inclined to ask, how would you say, because you said you're working on another book, right?
Yes.
How would you say this one is different than um, your first book?
So my first book was actually it's pretty much like a shadow journey,
Mhm.
and it's of poetry and it's of my past, and it goes through, I wanted to be really authentic in the emotions that I was feeling during my breaking, during the deconstructed space that I was in with all of these pieces laying around me, and I wanted to share that authentically. The inner screams, that I had, the inner thoughts, the feelings that I was going through, and it moves gently into the light to where I began to see and begin to find healing. And so this book, definitely I wanted to write before I started getting into the light of things, because I wanted people to know that I'm not just, someone over here is trying to, you know, push love and light on everyone. I've been through the shadows. I have faced my inner demons and I still have to do that to this day. It's not there's never like an end to this. It's just more of a way of living, of being able to be in balance with both sides of ourselves. And so this new book that I'm writing is more, it's actually a poetry book as well. And it's going more into the rooting process of what to do when you are gathering these pieces. What does the rooting process look like? And so it's a lot more, um, it's not as heavy of a shadow journey. This one is more of like that reclamation kind of feeling that I was just talking about, of like really rooting in, claiming ourselves, what that looks like, reflections on that whole process of embodiment.
Amazing. And where can we find you? And what do you have coming up?
So my website is seekingwildbeauty.com. A lot of my links are on there. I'm also on Patreon, and I hold a story weaver circle every full moon, to where I gather with women and we do ceremony and we do a journey together, just to kind of keep ourselves in alignment throughout the month. So if you want to check that out, that's at patreon.com /seekingwildbeauty. And then I'm on Instagram, YouTube, and Threads at Seeking Wild Beauty.
Awesome. Oh my gosh, Harmony, thank you so much for coming and sharing. I can't wait to listen back to this myself and just like be in the light that you're sharing. It's just like wow. And Yeah, thank you again for being here and also inviting me to be a part of Forgotten Places because I feel like that, really opened up such a beautiful connection between both of us. And yeah, I'll be linking everything with this poet cast. But yeah, everyone, thank you for listening. If you have any questions or comments about Memento Futurum, feel free to reach out. But until next time, toodles.